Hello everyone, this is Sasha and I'm just going to teach you how to draw lips today. So first off, you start with the background, which is your skin tone. And then obviously you draw the shape of your lips because you can pick from a different amount of lip shapes. And there are a lot of interesting ones out there. I prefer to go with bigger lips usually. The second thing you do is you mess around with the color because it's boring if it just has one color, isn't it? Like, usually they have different shades, so do that. The next thing you might want to do is add some extra details like piercings or whatever, but make sure you do it in another layer. Then you start off by adding depth through multiply and color dodge / screen, which you can use as layer settings or brush settings in Photoshop. Okay. So the next thing you get onto is that you keep on adding depth. That's the most important thing we're going to be covering. You add depth. So one of the easy ways you can do this is to mark the middle of your mouth and the ends, because those are usually the darkest bits. Sometimes you might want to add more depth to the bottom of the lip too. It makes them look bigger. And I think the simplest way to keep on adding depth is with the multiply tool because it's my favorite, but there are loads of other things you can try too. Like color bar, that's really useful too. But the key here is to make sure that you don't have too much difference in tone. Keep the tones relatively closer to each other. As you can see from my color picking tool over there, I've got an extension called Coolorus, and that's usually how you're going to see which color I pick. It makes it a lot easier because it gives you some color tones, like you can pick from that. Anyway, getting back to this, make sure you keep on cleaning up the edges because that's going to be a really important bit too. And you might also want to add some details to whatever extra things that you put. Maybe stickers or piercings. Keep on adding details to those too because it's really weird if those are flat and your lips are really defined. So make sure you keep your style consistent. If your lips are simple, make your details simple too. Okay, so now we go on to the fun part, highlights. I love doing this bit because you get to sprinkle glitter and it all looks really shiny and sparkly. And I feel like that's one of the best bits. So I might teach you guys how to make sparkle brushes later on. But for now, let's just take a look at this for a while. Okay, so now is the last bit you're going to do, which is adding details and highlights. Now, I think the most important thing in a drawing is always shadows and highlights because that's what makes it bulge out. Bulge might be the wrong word, but that's what defines the entire drawing. It adds depth to it, making it a lot more realistic. I'm not aiming for realistic with this one, more like semi-realism because that's my style. But as you can see, adding extra shadows here, it makes the lips look more 3D. And I always like adding some lips in the middle because I'm not really sure what I've called, but I've got rabbit teeth. So mostly my drawings have that too. So yeah, we're just going on and we're adding more details, more highlights. So I think another interesting thing is usually when we have our lips closed, sometimes when we have lip gloss and stuff, the inner, near the line, the line in the middle of both of your lips, your upper and lower lip, it has a bunch of small little highlights, which might be saliva, which might be lip gloss. Either way, it gives your drawing a more realistic tone. This is really embarrassing. Anyway, so I think that's mostly it at the moment. But yeah, I think it's looking really, really, really good at the moment. As compared to something that would look really flat. So right now, I have to say we have to add a bit of details at the bottom of your lip because usually the part at the bottom is usually darker. It's a shadow because of our chin, which is right below our lips. So yeah. When you're adding the highlights, an interesting thing to note would be that you don't add a line that goes from one end to the other end. You make sure that there are bits between the line. And another trick is to use an extra layer for the lines. Personally, I like working on one layer, but it might help. So that is it for now. Thank you all for listening, and thank you guys for viewing the video. And if you like what you saw, please subscribe and make sure to share the video with your friends. Thank you guys.